Hi, my name's Itali and in this video I'll be drawing a Discord banner for Kaz. As with most of my videos, this is a time-lapse video and does contain fast-moving and flashing images. Kaz has commissioned me to draw them a Discord banner, and I am drawing it the Discord banner size, which is smaller than what most of my drawings normally are. And they also requested that I make them their Discord server's icon as well, and we decided that what we do is I draw the dragons and then use the drawings that I've done for the banner to create the icon as well, so we didn't have to draw a completely new image for the icon image. To give me an idea of what to draw in the banner, Kaz sent me a beautiful description of a hidden hollow underneath the canopy of thick trees. They didn't actually give me descriptions of the dragon, but more like a feeling of where to go from there, and I got the feeling they were both a protective and welcoming presence, so I decided to go with this sort of yin and yang colour scheme here, with one of them being quite dark and one of them being light, and I wanted them to feel kind of cosmic or godly, so I also speckled them with stars and tried to make them look a bit galaxy-like. The dragon design themselves are loosely based off a dragon design I came up with for Kaz's last commission, which was this feathered dragon with a scaled underside, which I did think turned out very beautiful, and I really do like the designs of these dragons, and I look forward to drawing more if Kaz ever needs more pictures of these beautiful dragons. I did draw up 2 sketches. You can see me drawing the second sketch at the moment. The first one was more of a close-up view of the dragons, and this one showed their full bodies more in the distance. The problem with this second sketch though is the banner is rather small, so the detail on them would be rather small, where with the faces closer to the viewer, you are going to be able to have a much more detailed drawing, so that's what we decided to go with in the end. I did decide to stick with my current technique of shading in grayscale and then having a color layer on top, and I did have to kind of paint over a lot of the sketch, as I only really did a very rough sketch and then just went straight into shading, as you can see here. It didn't take me a huge amount of time to do, but I did struggle with the white dragon more than the dark dragon. I just was painting it and was like, the face just felt really flat, and I did want to sort of up my game a little bit on dragon faces in general, so I decided to look up some references to see what I was missing out on, and I decided I was missing out on cheekbones. So you'll see that at the moment the space underneath the eye is quite flat, but after looking up some references and deciding on what I was missing, I do add a very distinct sort of cheekbone or cheek sort of shape above the mouth and darken the area around the mouth more to have it a more interesting shape and a more realistic shape to the dragon. Then when I move across to shading the darker dragon, I just go straight to doing that rather than wasting time trying to smooth out an area that really shouldn't be that smooth to begin with. I also decided I wanted to give them both elegant horns, but really couldn't decide on what kind of horns to give them for quite some time. Eventually I did sort of settle on this 2 different designs of horns, so one of them curving up and one of them curving down, as I did want them to be similar but also opposite at the same time. So, you know, one is dark, one is light, one is up horns and one is down horns, and the dark dragon's feathers actually flick up, and most of the light dragon's feathers point downwards. Speaking of feathers, you will see me start to detail the feathers shortly. I do still really love doing feathers, and I'm really addicted to this doing a light outline and light start to the feather and then coming back over with a darker color, as you can see now, and blending them in. I usually go over this and do this a few times before I'm happy with the outcome, but it just is a really pleasing process, and I really do enjoy painting feathers in this way, which is why, even though feathers can be a bit annoying because normally you have to draw at least some of them so it looks like a feathered creature, it is still quite a pleasing process to me. The horns did bother me for quite a while. I wasn't really very happy with the horns until right near the end when I add some texture onto them. Then I kind of liked how they looked then, but at this stage I'm still not happy with them. I'm quite happy with how the mix of colors ended up for the lighter dragon, as I just sort of smudged around the colors I'd put down for the sketch, and it does have this sort of pleasing pastel-y look to it. And I really liked how my screen layer of the stars looked on top of these colors. And you'll see I will actually paint over the eye to make the eye like a glowing yellowy eye as well. And I also add some light or pale yellow in between the feathers to also give it that sort of celestial, godly being kind of look to the dragon. Now I'm pretty much done with the pale dragon. I will return to it after I've done the background to mix in some of the background colors to make it suit the surroundings a bit better. But for now I'm going to be moving on to the black dragon. I do a bit of shifting around as I had decided to make the pale dragon larger, and I needed the dark dragon to be in roughly the same spot in comparison to the middle of the drawing. So that's why you saw those little white strokes there. I was aligning it to the same position as the lighter dragon before I started really blocking in some of the dark and light areas, as I knew I had to fill in the gaps that were going to be left when I shifted it. Now, I didn't actually use a multiply layer for this one. Normally I will use a multiply layer to add the shadows, but I already knew exactly where I was going to put all the shadows, and this is a pretty small drawing, so I just went straight into painting onto the layer and didn't bother with a multiply layer at all. So it's just all painted straight onto the grayscale layer. I did originally think I liked the sort of pointy chin, but the further along I went into the drawing, the less I liked it. I also decided to switch around those teeth, so if you notice at the start of the drawing, the teeth were round the other way, with the larger pointing down one at the front and the smaller one at the back. But in most creatures, you have the if you're going to have two teeth hanging out, the one pointing up is usually at the front, so I tend to try and make sure I do that, and I do think it looks a little more natural that way round. I really liked how the eye turned out on this. It's just kind of cute. I don't know, it was a cute shape. I got the shape of this dragon a lot quicker than the pale dragon, but that was because I'd already learnt my lessons with the pale dragon, so the darker dragon was much easier for me to just get straight into. And I do like dark dragons as well. I actually love painting white, but I like darker dragons better. It's just white is an easier and more enjoyable color to paint, but dark dragons, in my opinion, are cooler. So you see I'm just adding some texture on here, and then I turn the color layer back on and I just swish around all the color I had on there, and I add a little bit of silver to the horns and start to add the same details I added to the pale dragon. So I add the little stars, and I'll also be painting on the glowing eye, but I'll make the whites of the eye actually black for this one, because I want it to be sort of opposite. So I did decide in the end that its whites would be black, and I do a very highly saturated blue for in between the feathers and scales. So now it's time to return to my background sketch and actually make it a proper drawing. So the first thing I do is remove my big fat trees from the front, as I want the freedom to paint the background without having to paint around those trees. So I cut them out, put them on a different layer, and then wet painted over them and started detailing the furthest away parts of the background and then making my way forward. I did really like doing these faraway trees. Faraway trees are just kind of fun to do because you kind of just slap a bunch of lines down. I do add a little more detail to them a bit later on, which I think really makes them pop. But there's just something nice about painting shadowy trees in the distance, and I liked how this bush turned out behind the darker trees. It was just really satisfying, and the river's kind of cute too. I wasn't as happy with the stuff in the foreground, like the ferns and the sort of stuff that's in front of the river but before the big trees. I just couldn't quite nail it. I'll have to make sure I do some studies on plants because I still struggle with plants and leaves a bit. So it is one of my weaknesses at the moment. I will have to try to get better at. But you can see me adding these little twigs here. I think these twigs really sold these trees for me. I really liked when I decided to do that. I'm like, yes, that was the right decision. I also have the vines on a separate layer. They're actually turned off at the moment, but you'll see me working on them shortly. And I did really like how the vine parts of them turned out, but again, I still need to practice with my leaves. So I don't really have much else to say about the background. I mostly just used my two custom brushes. One of them is my rock texture brush and one of them is a wood texture brush. And then I just smudge things around. So yeah, enjoy watching the rest of the background be drawn, and I'll chime in again at the end. So here's the finished banner image. I did spend a bit of time afterward adding some text to the top of it and making it smaller. I also have the finished icon, which I really did like. I really enjoyed this commission, so thank you very much, Kaz, for commissioning me. Thanks everybody for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I do have a Patreon if you'd like to support me. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time. Bye!